So, you're looking to get hired as a junior developer in 2024. Well, 2024, things are looking bad. This is because the global economy is not doing all that well, and that has a knock on effect on all the industries. For the tech industry, what this means is that we have far fewer roles than we have candidates. And as a consequence, that means that the competition is really, really intense. So, as a candidate, in order to get hired in 2024, you have to do something different, something that makes you stand out in the crowd. If you've researched online about how to get hired as a junior developer in 2024, you will have found a mishmash of information. Some of that is good, some of that can be confusing, and some of that is just simply wrong. Now, this is not out of malice, it's simply because the core assumptions that were made when those advice were put together could be completely different to your particular context or situation. So we're going to approach this completely differently. We're going to not start off with the tips, but we're going to start off with those core assumptions. Once we've clarified those assumptions, we can then layer on top of that clear tips and advice. Okay, let's look at those core assumptions. We need to take a step back and you need to ask yourself, why are you getting into technology? Now, there could be multiple reasons for this, but we could generalize and put it down as two reasons. The first one related to financial, and the second one because of a deep passion in software engineering and technology. Now, if you're doing it for purely for financial reasons, I will have to stop you here simply because you will have a bad time in the tech industry if that is your main reason for getting into technology. So I'm going to assume that you are passionate about software engineering and technology. The second assumption is that you are actually a competent engineer or software engineer in the sense that you already know how to use a programming language and you have all of the basics. Now we need to differentiate that between being competent with the language and knowing frameworks, and this distinction has to be made very clear because there are many boot camps that will teach you lots of frameworks, but that does not mean you have core competency over the actual language. And it is far more important to have competency over the language than any framework. And the reason being is once you have the fundamental competency of a language, you can learn and pick up any framework or library. So I'm going to provide you with 5 tips or advices that you can use in order to increase your chance of breaking into the tech industry. So the first one is to actually build real world projects. Now, a lot of advice you'll find online is about having some kind of GitHub portfolio where you essentially put toy projects and solutions on there. I would suggest that the emphasis shouldn't be on just doing toy projects, because I think they should be real world projects. Real world projects in the sense that you have a genuine problem that you need to solve and you solve it using a particular language that you have competency in. This will provide you with far more real world knowledge and experience than if you just did some random toy project. The second advice I would give is to try and contribute towards open source. Perhaps you have your favorite open source application that you use. Why not contribute towards it? Make some bug fixes. This will help in terms of exposure, in terms of your knowledge, in terms of your experience. It all helps. The third advice I would give is related to networking, and you can approach this either in real life if you go to lots of conferences and lots of hackathons, however you can, to try and increase your potential of connecting and hooking up with other people who are actually in the industry and who can get to know you. And again, this could follow on from, for example, doing open source work. You may build up a relationship that way. The fourth tip that I would give is to do internship for free. So I know that sounds a bit maddening. Why would you work for free? But again, you need that experience. You as a junior, and especially when you're trying to break into the industry, you are in a catch-22 situation whereby you may have the competence and you might have the skill, but you lack the experience. But because you don't have the job, you can't get the experience. So you're in a kind of a stuck situation. So to try and break that, you can try and look for a free internship where essentially you're gaining experience, but you're not, taking any funds and taking or getting paid for it. Now, for businesses, this can be fantastic because sometimes Their bandwidth, in terms of bandwidth, they're constrained, and so then taking on someone which they can train up, and obviously they don't have to pay them. It helps them. So, and it also helps you. So it's a mutually beneficial. And the final approach that you could take, or a tip or advice, is to try your hand at freelancing. So this again is a good way to sort of try to slowly break into the industry, because again it's all about gaining that initial experience. So to recap, those are 5 different tips or advice that you could do. Now, I'm not saying this is a surefire guaranteed way of breaking into the industry, because all I'm saying is that these tips and advice will massively improve your odds.